The throne room of the alien empire was filled with silence. Tall crystal pillars glowed with blue light, casting shadows across the polished floor. Hundreds of soldiers stood in formation, their armor sharp and shining like blades. At the center, upon a high throne made of living crystal, sat the alien queen. Her crown shimmered like silver fire, her eyes cold and commanding. Every creature in the room bowed low, afraid to raise their heads. The queen's daughter, a small princess with curious eyes, stood near her mother. She was young, innocent, and still learning about the heavy world of duty. Her hair shimmered with the same silver glow as her mother's crown. Her laughter usually brought joy to the palace, but today there was no laughter. Today there was a prisoner, a human. He stood chained in the middle of the hall, guarded by 10 soldiers. His clothes were torn from battle, his face scarred, yet his back was straight. There was no fear in his eyes, only calmness, like a man who carried secrets. The court murmured, voices like buzzing insects. A human inside the royal court, one whispered, "This is madness," another hissed. The queen raised her hand, and silence returned. She spoke with a voice that could cut stone. "This human is brought before me for judgment. He entered our land without permission. He fought against our soldiers, and yet he still lives." The alien generals nodded in agreement, their eyes fixed on the prisoner. Execution was expected. Mercy was unthinkable. But then something happened, something no one could have predicted. The young princess suddenly broke away from her mother's side. Her small feet echoed as she ran across the shining floor. Gasps filled the air as she rushed toward the chained human. "Stop!" the guard shouted, but the girl did not stop. She threw her arms around the human's waist, her small body pressing against his chains. Her voice, innocent and clear, rang out through the throne room. "Father!" The hall exploded with shock. Soldiers stepped back, generals shouted, and the queen rose from her throne with wide eyes. Her voice trembled with anger and disbelief. "What did you call him?" The child looked up at her mother, then back at the man. Her voice grew louder, stronger. "Father! He is my father!" The court erupted. "No child of the empire can speak such words." General roared. "This is corruption." Another growled. "Kill the human before he poisons the royal line," the oldest one demanded. But the child clung tighter, tears forming in her glowing eyes. The human looked down at her, silent, his hands bound, but his gaze steady. He did not call her daughter. He did not speak at all. Yet the bond between them was clear, powerful, unshakable. The queen's heart pounded. She had ruled through wars. She had broken empires. She had never known fear. But this moment filled her with fear like no battlefield ever had. How could her daughter, heir to the throne, see a human as her father? It was impossible. It was dangerous. Yet it was real. The queen descended from her throne, her silver robes flowing like liquid light. Each step echoed like thunder. Her soldiers bowed lower, afraid of her rage. She stopped only a few steps away from the human. Her eyes burned as she spoke. "Speak, human, why does my daughter call you father?" The human lifted his head, meeting her gaze. There was no fear, no shame, only quiet strength in his eyes. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Silence. That silence was heavier than any weapon. It filled the chamber with more tension than war drums. The princess cried, tugging at his chains. "Don't hurt him. Please, mother. He is my father." The queen's breath caught in her throat. Her generals were shouting for blood. Her people were waiting for her command. But her daughter's words echoed louder than all of them. "Father." Her chest tightened. Her mind raced. Had fate played a cruel trick? Or was this the beginning of something her empire could not control? The queen looked at the human again. For the first time in years, she felt uncertain. Her lips trembled as she whispered to herself, "This cannot be." And yet, the throne room shook with tension. The child clung to the human. The generals demanded death, and the queen's heart wavered between rage and fear. In that moment, one truth became clear. Nothing in the empire would ever be the same again. The throne room remained heavy with silence. The alien queen's mind was filled with storms, but her face stayed hard and unreadable. Her daughter still clung to the human, refusing to let go. The guards stood frozen, uncertain whether to tear the princess away or drop to their knees. The queen raised her hand, commanding silence again. Her voice was sharp. Take the child back to her chambers. The human stays in chains. But the princess cried out, her small hands gripping the human's wrist tighter. No, mother, don't take him away. He saved me. He is my father. The queen's eyes narrowed. The words burned inside her, dangerous as fire. Saved you? When? She asked, her voice cold but trembling with curiosity. The child's lips trembled, but her voice carried through the great hall. When the fire came, when the ground broke, he held me, he carried me out. I was afraid, but he kept me safe. The queen froze. She remembered the incident. Only days ago, there had been a surprise attack near the crystal borders. Explosions had rocked the outer colonies. The princess had gone missing for hours before guards found her again, shaken but alive. The queen had demanded answers, but no one could explain how the child had survived the collapse. Now the truth stood before her, bound in chains. The human, silent all this time, finally lowered his head and spoke. His voice was calm, steady, carrying the weight of battle. She was trapped beneath the burning stone. The ground was breaking. Your soldiers were fleeing. I could not leave her. Gasps filled the chamber. The general spat in anger. Lies. Humans do not protect. Humans destroy. But the princess shouted back, her little fists clenched. He is not lying. He saved me. He held me when no one else came. The queen's hands trembled at her sides, though she forced her body to remain still. This human had been her enemy, yet he had saved her daughter. Why? What did he seek in return? Her sharp gaze cut into him like a blade. You risked your life for her, but you are not of our kind. You gain nothing from it. Why? The human's silence returned. He looked at the princess, who clung to him with eyes full of trust. Then he looked at the queen, his jaw set. Finally he spoke. No child deserves to die in fire. Not yours, not mine, not anyone's. The words echoed like thunder in the hall. The court grew restless. The generals exchanged furious whispers. But the queen stood frozen, her heart twisting with emotions she could not name. She had always seen humans as weak, selfish, destructive. Yet here stood one who spoke with honor. Her daughter's tears proved his truth. That night, the queen called for her most loyal advisor, the old seer, keeper of ancient knowledge. She asked him in secret, "Is it possible for a child of my blood to feel bond with a human?" The seer's eyes glowed faintly as he touched the crystal floor. Your Majesty, long ago before the wars, there were whispers of a link, a hidden thread between our kind and theirs, a bond of spirit, rare and forbidden, yet children see truth more clearly than rulers. If your daughter calls him father, then perhaps the bond is real. The queen dismissed him, but her heart could not dismiss the weight of his words. In her chambers, she watched her daughter sleep, clutching a small shard of metal the human had given her during the chaos. A toy, broken and simple, but held with love. The queen's chest tightened as she whispered to herself, "What are you, human? What secret do you carry that even my daughter's heart recognizes?" The next morning, she ordered the human brought to the interrogation chamber. He stood with his chains, unbroken, his eyes still calm. The queen circled him like a predator, her words sharp as blades. "You saved her, but do not think that makes you safe. She is my heir, my blood. If you poison her mind with false hope, I will end you myself." The human did not flinch. He simply answered, "I need no lies. The child speaks what she feels. You cannot command her heart, even if you command armies." The queen stopped, her anger boiling. She should have struck him, silenced him forever. But the fire in his words made her hesitate, and hesitation was something she had not known in years. That night, whispers spread through the empire. Rumors of the princess, who called a human father. Some mocked, others feared. A few even wondered if destiny had begun to turn. The queen stood at her balcony, staring at the endless stars. Her generals demanded the human's execution, but her heart was torn. For the first time, she felt the weight of choice heavier than the weight of her crown. The bond between her daughter and the human was dangerous, but was also unbreakable. And deep inside, a fear grew. What if this bond was not just a child's confusion? What if it was the key to something greater? Something that could change the fate of her empire forever. The interrogation chamber was carved deep inside the palace walls. Its ceiling glowed faintly with blue crystal veins, pulsing like a heartbeat. The air was cold, heavy, and filled with silence. Only the sound of chains echoed whenever the human moved his arms. He stood in the center, bound but unbroken. His eyes were calm, steady, watching the queen as she entered the chamber. The alien queen walked slowly, her long silver robe flowing like liquid light. Her crown was absent, but her authority was not. Every guard in the room bowed as she passed. She stopped only a few steps away from the human. Her gaze was sharp, searching for weakness. But all she saw was a man who refused to kneel inside his heart. "You have disturbed my empire," she said coldly. "My daughter speaks your name as father. My people whisper in fear. My generals demand your death. Tell me, human, why should I allow you to live?" The human raised his head, his chains clinking softly. "I never asked for life or death," he answered. "I asked only to protect the child. She called me father by her own will, not mine." The queen's lips pressed into a thin line. Her daughter's voice still echoed in her memory. "Father," she had cried, "Father," with tears in her glowing eyes. The queen forced the thought away. "You speak like a man of honor, yet you are human. The stories say your kind betray, your kind destroy." The human's eyes did not waver. "Perhaps stories are not always truth," he said. "I know what I saw. A child trapped under fire and falling stone, a princess alone, crying for help. No one came. Only me. I cannot leave her, even if she were your child, even if she were my enemy. No child deserves to die in fire." The guards shifted uneasily, their claws clicking against the floor. Some lowered their eyes, unwilling to meet the man's gaze. The queen felt her chest tighten, though she refused to show it. Still, she stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. Her voice dropped to a whisper, sharp as a blade. "You dare to claim righteousness before me? You dare to speak of truth in chains?" The man did not flinch. He bowed his head slightly, not in submission, but in quiet strength. "I do not claim righteousness. I only claim what I saw, and your daughter saw it too. That is why she calls me father." The queen's anger sparked like lightning. Her hand shot forward, grabbing his chin, forcing him to look into her eyes. "Do not speak of her again," she hissed. But in his eyes, she found no fear. Instead, she saw something that unsettled her. A calm fire, a human spirit that refused to bow. At that very moment, the door burst open. The young princess rushed inside, slipping past the guards who tried to hold her back. "Mother, stop!" she cried, tears streaking her cheeks. She ran to the human, wrapping her arms around him. The chains rattled as she clung to him. Her voice broke with desperation. "Don't hurt him. Please, he is my father." The chamber fell silent. Every soldier froze, unsure whether to drag the child away or drop their weapons. The queen's heart pounded, torn between fury and fear. Her daughter's love for this human was not fading, it was growing stronger. The child pressed her head against the man's chest, sobbing softly. "He held me when the fire came. He gave me his strength when I was afraid. He is my father, no matter what you say." The queen's lips parted, but no words came. For a moment, the mighty ruler of an empire stood speechless before her child. Her generals' voices echoed in her mind, demanding blood, demanding the human's death. But her daughter's tears drowned them out. The queen turned sharply, her robe sweeping behind her. "Take the child back to her chambers," she ordered, her voice trembling slightly. Now! But the girl refused to let go. Her small hands gripped the human's chains, her glowing eyes staring up at her mother with stubborn fire. No, I won't leave him. If you take him away, I will follow him. Even if you banish me, even if you lock me away, I will follow him. The guards hesitated, none daring to touch the princess. The queen's chest tightened, her breath heavy. This was no ordinary defiance. This was a bond, raw and unbreakable, a bond she could not understand, yet could not deny. Finally, the queen raised her hand. Her voice cut through the chamber like thunder. Enough! The child froze. The guards fell silent. Even the humans stood still. The queen turned her gaze upon the man, her eyes burning. Very well, human, you will live, but not as a free man. You will remain in chains until I uncover the truth of this bond. If you have poisoned her mind, I will see you torn apart. But if there is something more. She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Her pride would not allow her to say it aloud. But in her heart, she already knew the truth. This man was no ordinary prisoner. He was something more, something dangerous, something impossible, and perhaps something necessary. As the guards led the human away, the princess cried again, reaching for him. The queen turned her face away, hiding the storm in her eyes. She was ruler of an empire, commander of armies, destroyer of enemies. But in that moment, she felt powerless against the simplest truth of all, her daughter's heart. And deep inside, for the first time in her reign, the alien queen began to fear not her enemies, but destiny itself. The human was taken to a deeper cell, a place where even echoes seemed afraid to linger. The walls were carved of dark crystal, humming faintly with energy that suppressed strength and spirit. Heavy chains bound his wrists and ankles, yet his back remained straight, his eyes still calm. Outside the bars, two alien guards stood watch, but their eyes shifted uneasily whenever they met his gaze. There was something unsettling about him, not because he looked dangerous, but because he looked unbroken. Far above, the alien queen sat alone in her private chamber. Her generals had shouted for hours, demanding the human's execution. Every moment he breathes, he stains the honor of the throne. One had said, he has twisted the princess's mind. Another accused. Yet the queen had silenced them with a raised hand. She could not kill him. Not yet. Her daughter's tears still clung to her heart, sharper than any blade. And deep inside, a question whispered louder than the voices of her court. Why does my child see him as father? Unable to rest, the queen descended into the lower halls. Her guards tried to follow, but she waved them away. She wanted no eyes, no ears, only truth. She reached the human cell, the blue glow of the crystals reflecting in her silver eyes. For a moment she stood silent, watching him through the bars. Then, with a command of her hand, the door opened and she stepped inside. The human did not bow. He did not look away. He simply met her gaze, steady and calm. The queen's voice was cold, but behind it trembled curiosity. You speak of honor. You save my child. You defy my throne with silence. But I want truth. Human, who are you really? For the first time, the man lowered his eyes, as if considering whether to speak. Finally, his voice broke the heavy air. I was a soldier. Nothing more. I fought as I was told. I bled as many of my kind bled, but there is something in me I do not understand, something I did not choose. The queen frowned, her sharp eyes narrowing. What do you mean? Slowly, the human lifted his hand as far as the chains allowed. On his wrist, half hidden by scars, was a strange mark, glowing faintly under the crystal light. It was not a human mark, not ink, not burn. It shimmered with the same energy as the alien crystals, alive, pulsing. The queen's breath caught in her throat. She recognized it, though she wished she did not. It was a mark of her people, a symbol from the oldest times, long before war, long before hatred. Her voice shook as she whispered, "How do you carry this?" No human could bear such a sign. It belongs to the blood of my ancestors. The man's jaw tightened. I did not know years ago I crossed paths with one of your kind, not in battle, but in secret. He was wounded, near death. I saved him. He touched my arm before he died. And this appeared from that day. It has remained, burning at times, whispering at others. I tried to forget, but it never left me. The queen staggered back a step, her heart racing. The seer's words returned to her, whispers of a hidden thread between humans and her people, rare, forbidden, unspoken. She clenched her fists, fighting to keep her voice steady. And now my daughter feels bond with you because of this mark. The man shook his head slowly. No, not because of the mark. The mark is only a sign. The bond is real because she felt it. I did not ask for it. I did not force it. She chose it. The queen's thoughts swirled like storm winds. Her people would never accept this. Her generals would call for blood. Yet her daughter's heart had chosen this man. If the mark was real, if the connection was true, then perhaps destiny itself was shifting beneath her feet. The human spoke again, his voice low but firm. You think me your enemy, but I am not. I never sought your throne, your war, your child, but fate has tied me to her. You can kill me, but you cannot kill what she feels, and if you kill me, you may kill a piece of her too. The queen's chest ached. She wanted to deny it, to strike him down, to silence his words. But deep inside, she knew he spoke truth. Her daughter's laughter, her tears, her stubborn fire, it all pointed to something beyond reason, beyond law, something she could not control. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the halls. Heavy footsteps, voices of generals. They had discovered her absence. They were coming. The queen turned sharply, her robe sweeping as she stepped closer to the human. Her voice was fierce, urgent. Say nothing of this mark. If they see it, they will tear you apart. For now, it stays secret. Do you understand? The man nodded once, calm as ever. The queen turned just as the doors burst open. The generals stormed in, their eyes burning with suspicion. Majesty, why do you waste time with this human? End him and end the whispers, they demanded. The queen lifted her chin, her voice icy and commanding. He lives because I command it. His fate is mine to decide. Not yours. Leave, or I will silence you all. The generals bowed reluctantly, their anger sharp, but none dared defy her. As they left, the queen's heart thundered. She had lied to protect a human. She had hidden truth from her own people. And worst of all, she had seen destiny in the eyes of a prisoner. She knew then that the story had only begun, and the path ahead would test not just her crown, but her soul. The Grand Council chamber shook with the voices of the generals. They stood in a circle of firelight, their armor gleaming, their fangs bared in anger. One slammed his clawed hand against the stone table, the sound echoing like thunder. This cannot continue. Majesty, every moment the human breathes, he poisons the empire. Another growled, his eyes flashing with fury. The princess's mind is clouded. She speaks of him as father. Already the servants whisper. Soon the people will doubt your strength. If you cannot protect the throne from a single human, how can you rule us all? The queen sat high upon her seat, her silver robe flowing like liquid light. Her face was calm, but her heart trembled beneath the weight of their words. She had ruled through wars, crushed rebellions, silenced kings, yet never before had her council stood against her with such fire. They demanded the human's death. They demanded blood, but she could not give it, not yet. She raised her hand, and the chamber fell silent. Her voice cut through the air like a blade. You forget who rules this empire. You forget whose command keeps your armies standing. The human lies because I decree it. Any who challenge this decree challenge me. The generals bowed, but their eyes still burned with fury. Their whispers followed her long after the meeting ended. Whispers of rebellion, whispers of doubt. The queen felt the storm gathering. That night, she went to her daughter's chamber. The princess was awake, holding the small shard of metal the human had once given her. When she saw her mother, she rushed forward, her glowing eyes filled with hope. Did you free him, mother? Is he safe? The queen knelt, her hands resting on her daughter's shoulders. Her voice was soft, softer than she wished it to be. He is alive, but he is still a prisoner. My generals want him dead. They believe he is dangerous. The child shook her head fiercely, tears already forming. He is not dangerous. He saved me. He is kind. He is my father. The queen's chest ached, but she forced her voice to stay steady. You do not understand the weight of such words. If the people believe them, if the generals hear them again, they will strike him down. You must stay silent for his sake. The girl clutched the shard tighter, her small hands trembling. I will never stop calling him father. Not in my heart, not in my soul. They cannot take that away from me. The queen turned away, hiding the storm in her eyes. Her daughter's defiance was not childish stubbornness. It was something deeper, a bond that glowed brighter than reason, and she knew no command could sever it. Later that night, the queen summoned the old seer again. The chamber was dark, the crystals glowing faintly as the seer traced patterns across the floor. His voice was ancient, carrying the weight of forgotten truths. Majesty, you seek answers, but answers come with danger. The bond between your child and the human is not accident. It is fate, written in the old blood. If you destroy it, you may destroy more than you know. The queen's voice was sharp, though her heart wavered. Are you saying I must let this bond grow? That I must risk my throne for a human? The seer's glowing eyes met hers. I say only this, Majesty. Destiny does not bend to crowns. You may kill him, but you will not kill what has already begun. The queen dismissed him with trembling hands. Her thoughts raced like a storm. The mark on the human's wrist, the child's love, the seer's warning, all pointed toward a truth she did not want to face. In secret, she ordered her spies to search the archives. Ancient records, forgotten histories, hidden scrolls locked away in crystal vaults. She wanted to know if humans had ever touched her people's blood. She wanted proof, not whispers. For nights the spies searched, until finally they returned with fragments. Tales of old experiments, forbidden bonds, unions across species that had been erased from history. And buried among them was a prophecy. A child of the Empire would one day recognize a stranger as kin. Through that bond, the Empire would either fall or rise beyond the stars. The queen's blood ran cold as she read the words. She had spent her life mocking prophecies, dismissing them as tales. But now one was unfolding before her very eyes. Her daughter, her heir, had chosen a human, and the future of her empire trembled because of it. The next morning, the queen entered the prison chamber once more. The human looked up as she approached, his eyes as calm as always. She studied him in silence, searching his face for answers. At last she spoke, her voice heavy. My generals will not stop. They will move against you, against me, if I let you live much longer, but still, I cannot end you. Not yet. There is truth buried in you, truth that I must uncover. The human bowed his head slightly. I am ready. Whatever fate you choose for me, I will face it. But remember this. If you kill me, you will wound your daughter's heart, and a wound like that never heals. The queen turned sharply, her robe sweeping like fire. She could not admit it, not aloud, but his words were already truth inside her. Her empire demanded his death. Her generals demanded blood. But her daughter demanded something greater. And the queen knew the storm was only beginning. The palace trembled with unrest. Whispers of rebellion spread like fire through the crystal halls. The generals gathered their armies in secret, sharpening their blades, preparing for the moment when they would no longer obey their queen. Every shadow carried suspicion. Every echo sounded like a threat. The queen walked the lonely corridors at night, her mind torn between duty and fear. She had always been the Empire's unshakable stone, but now she felt cracks forming deep inside. The humans still lived. The princess still cried for him, and the prophecy in the old scrolls haunted her every breath. She summoned her spies once more, demanding everything they had uncovered. They brought her to a hidden vault beneath the palace, a chamber untouched for centuries. Within lay crystal tablets, carved with forbidden history. Her eyes scanned the symbols. Her voice whispered the ancient words. And there, in the cold glow of the crystals, she saw the truth. Long ago, before the wars, her ancestors had searched the stars. They found humanity, fragile yet burning with spirit. Some sought to destroy them, but others saw potential. Experiments were made, bonds were tested, and a handful of humans carried the essence of alien blood. It was hidden, rare, and forbidden, erased from history so the Empire would never know. Yet it lived, passed down silently, like a shadow in the veins of men. The Queen's breath shook, her fingers tracing the ancient carvings. The human's mark was no accident. It was proof. He carried the forgotten bloodline, a living bridge between species. And her daughter had sensed it, her heart recognizing what her mind could not. She closed the vault, her mind racing. If the generals learned this truth, they would burn the man alive. If the people learned it, they might see him as a threat or as a savior. The Empire itself could split apart. The Queen clenched her fists, torn between her throne and her child, between her people and her heart. The next day, she went again to the prison chamber. The human stood as before, chained yet unbowed. When she entered, his eyes lifted calm and steady. Without a word, she stepped forward and grabbed his wrist, pulling back the chains to reveal the glowing mark. The crystals in the walls pulsed in response, humming like an ancient song. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "It is true, you carry the blood of my people. How could this have been hidden for so long?" The man looked down at the mark, his face unreadable. "I never asked for it. I never wanted it, but it is part of me. I did not choose it, and yet it ties me to your daughter, to you, to this empire." The Queen released his wrist, stepping back as if burned. Her mind spun with questions, with fear, with anger. The man's calm voice broke her storm. "You fear me because I am human. You fear me because of what I carry, but I have no desire to rule your people. I want no throne, no crown. I only want to live free, to protect the child who trusts me." The Queen's lips parted, but no words came. For years she had believed humans were weak, treacherous, broken. Yet this man stood with strength, carrying her people's mark, carrying her child's love, and asking for nothing. It was more dangerous than an army. It was truth. Suddenly, the doors burst open. The generals stormed inside, their armor clashing, their eyes blazing. One pointed his claw at the human, shouting, "Enough of this insult. Majesty, we have proof of your weakness. The council will no longer obey while this creature lives." The Queen's soldiers filled the room, but their loyalty wavered. Some looked to their queen, others to the generals. The air was thick with the scent of rebellion. The Queen lifted her chin. Her voice thundered across the chamber. "Stand down, all of you. He lives by my command." But the oldest general stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "Then you are no longer fit to rule. You let a human defile our empire. You let your daughter call him father. You betray the blood of our ancestors." Gasps filled the chamber, soldiers shifting uneasily. The Queen's eyes burned, her hand tightening around her blade. She was seconds away from striking, when suddenly the princess ran in once more. Her small voice rang out above the chaos. "Stop! You will not hurt him." She rushed past the guards, throwing herself into the human's arms, her glowing eyes filled with tears. "Kill him, and you kill me, too," she shouted, her voice trembling but fierce. The chamber froze, every soldier, every general, every whisper silenced. The Queen's heart shook as she looked at her daughter. The prophecy's words echoed louder than ever. The child of the Empire will recognize the stranger as kin. Through that bond, the Empire will fall or rise beyond the stars. The Queen's lips parted as she whispered to herself, "It is true, the future stands before me, and I must choose." And in that moment, she realized the fate of her empire no longer rested in armies or crowns. It rested in the bond between her daughter and a human. The chamber stood frozen. The generals with their blades half-drawn, the guards with their claws trembling, the council with their whispers stuck in their throats. And in the middle of it all, the princess held the human tightly, her small arms wrapped around his chains. Her voice echoed, fierce and trembling. "Kill him, and you kill me too." The queen's heart thundered in her chest. She was ruler of the empire, commander of armies, destroyer of enemies. Yet at that moment she was only a mother. Her daughter's glowing eyes pierced her like no weapon ever had. Every step she had taken, every war she had fought, seemed to crumble beneath the weight of a child's love. The oldest general snarled, his voice sharp as fire. "This is manipulation, Majesty. The human has bewitched her mind. End him now, before he ends us all." Others shouted with him, their voices like thunder rolling through the chamber. But the queen raised her hand, and silence returned. Her voice shook, but her words were clear. "No, I will not kill him. He carries the blood of our ancestors. He saved the life of my heir, and my daughter calls him father. These are not accidents, they are signs." The generals erupted in fury, their claws scraping against the crystal floor. "You betray the empire," they cried. "You let prophecy guide you into ruin." But the queen's eyes burned with a strength they had not seen in years. "Perhaps I betray the past, but I will not betray the future," she thundered. She stepped forward, her robe sweeping behind her like silver fire. With her own hands, she tore the chains from the human, the crystal shattering as if bowing to her will. Gasps filled the hall. The soldiers stared in disbelief. The human stood free for the first time, yet he did not move to strike, he did not raise his fists. He simply placed his hand gently on the princess's shoulder, steadying her as she leaned against him. The queen saw it then, the bond unshakable and pure, a bond no general, no law, no army could sever. The council erupted again, but the queen silenced them with a single roar. "Enough! If you cannot accept my command, then you are traitors, and I will cut you down myself." Her eyes swept across the room, daring any to defy her. For a moment, no one moved. The chamber held its breath. Then, slowly, some of the younger soldiers lowered their blades. They had seen the princess's tears, they had heard her voice, and their hearts could not deny it. One by one, more followed, until only a handful of generals still stood defiant. Their leader spat on the ground, his voice venomous. "You doom us all, queen. You let weakness sit in your throne. You will regret this." The queen's blade flashed, swift as lightning. In one strike, the old general fell, silence swallowing the hall once more. The others bowed, fear in their eyes. The queen stood tall, her silver crown blazing in the crystal light. She turned to her people, her voice echoing like thunder. "Hear me now. The human is no enemy. He carries the mark of our ancestors. He is bound by fate to my daughter, and by that bond, he is bound to this empire. Any who defy this truth defy me, and defy destiny itself." The hall trembled with the weight of her words. Some bowed in loyalty, others in fear, but none dared to stand against her. The human remained silent, his calm gaze fixed on the queen. Finally, he spoke, his voice steady. "I did not seek this place. I did not seek this bond, but I will not run from it. If your daughter calls me father, then I will protect her as one. If your empire accepts me, I will not betray it. But if you wish me gone, I will go." The queen's heart softened for the first time in years. She looked at him, at her daughter clutching his arm, and at the people kneeling before her. The choice was no longer just hers. It was fate's, and fate had spoken. She lifted her chin, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Then so be it. He stays, not as prisoner, not as enemy, but as protector of my daughter and guardian of the bond that ties our future." The princess's face lit with joy, her tears replaced with laughter as she hugged him tighter. The human bowed his head, silent but resolute. And the queen, for the first time in many years, allowed herself a single deep breath of peace. Yet even as the hall bowed before her command, she knew the road ahead would not be easy. Enemies would rise, shadows would stir, and the prophecy's warning still echoed in her mind. Through this bond, the empire would fall or rise beyond the stars. The queen looked at her daughter, then at the human. Her lips curved in the faintest of smiles. "Let destiny come," she whispered, "for I am ready to face it."